G'day again guys, and thank you for joining me. Today's drawing is the third piece that I've done as a part of a collaborative artist group. This time we decided to work on separate pieces with a similar theme which would be stitched together at the end once they're all complete into a cohesive image. After much discussion and many late night Facebook messages, we decided to work on the theme of an African animal. Now, at the time, I was considering making an elephant or a rhinoceros or something with some really interesting skin texture. But as I usually work on birds, they're a really common feature in my artwork, I figured it would be more definably my part of the collaboration if I worked on a subject that was more, traditionally something that I would do. So, of course, the first African bird to come to mind was an ostrich. Well, this rash decision ended up being a little bit tricky. Since we decided to put the collaboration together at the end, we had already decided to work these on a square format to make it a little bit easier to stitch together. But when it came time to find reference photos, I found it quite hard to find images that would compose well into that square format. A really definable characteristic of an ostrich is that long flowing neck, and all of the ways that I attempted to pose my ostriches inside that square frame looked really cramped and kind of stunted. I found the answer eventually when I came across a photo on wildlifereferencephotos.com in which two ostriches are looking at each other in a really adorable way. This was a case where two heads were really better than one, as they fit inside that frame so much better, and I was able to show a little bit of head and neck and body all in the one image without making it look cramped and kind of uncomfortable. It's funny how much you think you know what something looks like until you start drawing it. I found myself really surprised by how pretty these birds' eyes are. Now, setting out, I thought to be much more like the emus that I've seen, with big open orange eyes. Getting up close to those guys can be a little bit intimidating. No, actually, it's really intimidating. Emus look crazy. But as I drew the eyes on these birds, I noticed they have much more eyelid showing, and with the big long flowing eyelashes, they looked much more like Instagram makeup models and way less like an escaped madman than I was expecting. A challenging part of this piece was working on that crazy wild texture of the feathers. Most of the birds that I draw have soft, sleek feathers, but these guys look so much more like a shag carpet than a sleek bird. The random light and dark feathers sticking out at all angles were really challenging, and this was definitely a case of trying to capture those textures rather than trying to copy each and every feather exactly. About halfway through this piece, I posted a progress shot over to Instagram, and as I did, I noticed that the piece looked really grey overall. I considered adding a colourful background to try and liven up the image a little bit, and I actually downloaded some images of Southern Africa, which is where these particular ostriches have come from. And I used those colours to mess around with some ideas in Photoshop. But as the other artists began to complete their pieces, I noticed that they'd kept to a really simple background, and I didn't want to make my piece stand out too much from the rest of the collection by adding a really colourful background. So to combat that really overly grey appearance, I decided to glaze some more interesting colours over the grey of the birds, just to add some interest to an otherwise really drab colouring. I used my cinnamon, sky blue and nougat pencils to really tint many of the feathers. I didn't really have a plan for where I was going to place those colours, just really stepping away from the reference photos and just adding those colours wherever I felt it might lift things or make it look good. So here's the final result. And looking at it, I like the way it looks, but I'm still not sure if I want to add a background. You know what? I'm going to put a poll up in the right hand corner. What do you think? Should I add a background or not? Until then, this piece has been scanned, and if you'd like to see it put together with the other pieces, drop by my Facebook or Instagram page and I'll post the final result when they're all together. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you'd like to see more, why not hit that subscribe button? And until next time, thank you so much for watching.